So as further part of this whole system, we're going to hear now from Rainer Simon on map annotation overlay and crowdsourced connections with Annotorious and Luna. So Rainer is an independent developer in Vienna. He's focused on spatial data exploration and analysis. He was formerly based with the Austrian Institute of Technology. He's the main developer for Annotorious and Recogito.js, open source libraries for text and image annotation. And he's a close collaborator with the Pelagios network. So, Rainer, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so in this session, I want to give you a quick tour of the annotation frontend that I had the pleasure of building for this project. So this is just the frontend part. As David has said, all the backend is handled by Luna, so it's really just sits on top of the existing Luna backend and the Luna website. So this is a frontend which we built specifically for displaying the annotations within Luna, and also for allowing people to submit corrections and confirmations and basically interact with the data in a useful way, useful for them, but also useful for us to get as a quality checking mechanism and a correction mechanism. So without further ado, I want to switch to the browser. So yeah, as David said, this is the magic button which will zoom to the whole map and will start loading the annotations in the background. It's already done that, so it's not that visible. This map actually doesn't have that many labels, but yeah. So as you can see, all the labels that were identified by Map Curator get this little bluish outline, and then once you click on them, you get a pop-up. Initially, so I think this is probably a map which nobody has at least worked on yet. So initially you see a pop-up that looks like this. It says, okay, here's a label. It has transcriptions, and you can unfold this. And what you see here, there are two transcriptions made by Map Curator. So this is a bit of an inside knowledge. So why are there two? So Map Curator always creates an original identification of the label, and then it makes a post-OCR correction. In many cases, that improves the situation. In this particular case, it looks like it's made this worse, in fact. Oh, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell which one's which. But at least you can see that always the latest transcription is on top here. So it also has this kind of a little bit annoying, and this is intentional, label which says, this was transcribed by artificial intelligence. Please help us improve our data by confirming or correcting. So this should serve as a prompt to the user so that they are aware that they can help us and that they can make our data better. I also should say this is only visible if you're logged into the system. So what if you're not logged in, you won't see any of this. You will still get the annotations, and you will still get this little drop-down widget here, which gives you all the history of transcriptions, but you won't have these two buttons here for edit and confirming, and you also won't get the prompt. So in this case, I will just hide this message, which means you will never see it again. So the annoying aspect is gone, and we sort of assume that as the user, you now know what you have to do. In this case, I can, for example, say, being a local of the area, oh, that's actually a bad example because I don't know how to get an umlaut on an English keyboard. But let's say, okay. So in this case, it's just, so I would say, yeah, for the sake of demonstration, let's say I will just want to confirm this. So what happens if I confirm it? You get this green check mark, not to be confused with the blue check mark. So we just collect a single confirmation from a user, which means we know that somebody has looked at this. So it's not a correction to the transcription, but at least we can measure that somebody has looked at it and said, okay, this is an okay transcription from Map Curator. it's an experiment. We will see how many people, how people are using this and whether it's actually a value for us. But we thought it might be something that's very low threshold for users to do. So it's just a single click and that's it. So let's see whether we can find something that has, oops, let's look. So graveyards, very important in Viennese culture, very morbid. That's nice, okay. But again, yeah, too many umlauts. Maybe I can find something. It's command ooh. It's command and the letter. Yeah, very good. Then I will make this correction. Where did I have it? So yeah, so in this case, definitely an incorrect transcription. So I can also move this around if it gets in my way. So, and now say nope. No, it doesn't work. Command. Oh, sorry. It's Windows. Okay. Let's take this one. So we talked about, okay, we talked about graveyards, very important in Viennese culture. Wine, another thing, very important in Viennese culture. Let's correct this one. So that's the house. Okay, so you can see when I click edit, also the shape itself becomes editable. So in this case, it's of course okay. I don't really want to mess with this, but in this case, you can also move it. You can adjust the corner points. You cannot yet add new points or like split or combine, but that might be a step for the future. So in this case, I've just yeah, let's say I corrected something about the shape. I definitely created a correction to the transcription. I say save edits. And so I can now see the correction, but also you will see, okay, here, there is a new transcription made just a few seconds ago by my user account, and I'm logged in now as the MRM test. So we don't throw away transcriptions. Although the whole trail of transcriptions that are being made is retained in the system, but just per default, it's always the latest transcription and the latest manual transcription that's shown. Yeah, I think that's basically it in terms of the functionality. You sometimes you might just want to delete, so that's also a possibility that you have. There's a delete button. In this case, it's just a row of trees, not an actual label. So let's just delete that. That's actually deleted in the system, so there is not that's actually thrown away in the index. So again, an experiment to see how people are using it. In this case, I'm certain that this is a mistake. It's deleted and it's gone. So immediately the annotations are updated in the interface. But as David has mentioned already, or I think that was in the morning session, the re-indexing and the search only gets updated after, like, in the next day. Right. So back to my slides. Here. So just summarizing, what are we collecting in terms of data? So as you saw, we are basically now collecting on a very low kind of threshold in terms of the complexity of the tasks. We want to keep it simple, just confirmations, just label corrections, and maybe shape corrections, but on a very simple level. So just basically dragging a little bit around the labels and fixing if the label is too short or something like that. We also allow deletions, and we only allow it for logged in users at the moment. I think all of these are just deliberate decisions. As a first step, we want to try out how people are using it and then make adjustments when we see what happens. There are many possible extensions, I think, that we've also been thinking about in the project. First of all, creating new annotations. That's something that people have already said that they would want. We also would be very interested in collecting information about semantic feature types. So is this a building? Is this a road? Whatever. And another thing which Valeria has already hinted at in the morning session is stories. Maybe we want to collect things that are more personal rather than place names. So what kind of memories are people attaching to a place or whatever. So I think there are also caveats to this. It's also tricky. You also, on the one hand, you have to strike a balance between the richness of the data that you're collecting and the complexity of the task. So tool set, as the tool set gets more complicated, it might put people off. There are also privacy implications, especially when you go beyond labels and when you start collecting personal stories, perhaps. There are issues of vandalism and moderation. I think that's mainly the reason why we have sort of pushed the stories off. I think this might simply require more thought. But yeah, I think the possibilities are pretty much endless, and it's just like going step by step and seeing how things develop. And with that, I will hand over to Valerian.